back to the Book Club Lounge, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. Seriously, it means the world to us.
And I echo that sentiment. Wherever you're listening from, whether you're walking the dog, cooking dinner, or just lounging with a good cup of tea, we're thrilled to be part of your day.
Yes, we truly are. And hey, before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and, of course, smash that notification bell so you never miss an episode. It's like having a bookmark for your favorite podcasts.
Oh, a bookmark for podcasts. You're really testing the boundaries of literary metaphors, Clara.
Ha! I couldn't resist. All right, let's talk about what's on today's menu. The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. If you're into psychological thrillers packed with twists and turns, you'll want to stick around for this one.
Indeed, it's a novel that's made quite a splash, touted as an absolutely addictive read. But fair warning, we'll be diving into the full plot, twists and all. Spoilers are on the table. Don't say we didn't warn you.
Exactly. So grab your coffee, tea, or maybe even a glass of wine, depending on where you are, and get comfy. We're peeling back the layers of The Housemaid, and there's plenty to unpack. Ready, Elliot?
Absolutely. Let's uncover the fascinating world of Freida McFadden's twisted psychological landscape, one chapter at a time.
Before we dive headfirst into the plot, let's take a moment to spotlight the mastermind behind The Housemaid. Freida McFadden, Elliot, don't you think she's like a psychological thriller wizard, conjuring up twists faster than we can keep up?
Absolutely, Clara. McFadden has a remarkable way of crafting suspenseful narratives. Her work thrives on misdirection. What you think you know almost always unravels into something startlingly different. I'd say her storytelling has a way of keeping readers perpetually on edge.
Exactly. And it's not just The Housemaid. She's got hits like The Inmate, The Coworker. Oh, and how could I forget The Locked Door? I mean, these titles alone spell impending chaos in the best way possible.
Yes, chaos indeed, but let's not forget the control she maintains over her narratives. The pacing of her novels, including The Housemaid, is meticulous. It never feels bloated or overindulgent. Her plots seem to sprint, yet they manage to flesh out her characters enough that you feel invested in their unraveling mysteries.
Totally. It's like she strikes this perfect balance between edge-of-your-seat suspense and deep emotional resonance. And clearly readers can't get enough. Apparently, The Housemaid whore has been compared to Gone Girl and The Girl on the Train, and I can totally see why. I mean, those twists.
I wouldn't call it a stretch, no. McFadden shares that ability to delve into the darker recesses of human behaviour while maintaining a level of accessibility that broader audiences appreciate. Although, dare I say, her storytelling feels more grounded at times.
Ooh, I love that. Grounded but not predictable, right? Like, The Housemaid grabs you with this relatable setup. A woman desperate for a second chance, and then, bam! It's this psychological roller coaster you didn't even see coming. Readers have described it as a must-read, a jaw-dropper, pick your dramatic phrase.
And those reviews align with what makes McFadden's work resonate globally. She has that knack for creating universal intrigue. And speaking of, it's not just the plot. I'd argue her characters, particularly Millie, are compelling precisely because they feel so flawed. You're rooting for them even when you're unsure whether you should trust them.
Yes. And don't forget Nina and Andrew Winchester. Seriously layered characters with motives that'll keep you guessing. But hey, let's save some of that for when we dissect the actual story. For now, I'm just in awe of McFadden's ability to churn out one hit after another. Her books climb bestseller lists for a reason, right?
Without question, she's carved herself a distinctive niche among psychological thriller authors, and I suspect her influence on the genre will only grow. Imagine what's next for her. Potential adaptations, perhaps.
Elliot, after everything we've said about McFadden's knack for tension and complexity, I can't help but feel that Millie's arrival at the Winchester house is the perfect setup to showcase exactly that. Honestly, this is where everything really starts to feel off, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic setup, isn't it? The grandiose house with its sprawling marble hallways and perfect facade. Yet beneath it all, you can just sense there's something simmering. A tension that lingers even before it fully reveals itself.
Exactly. And let's not forget Millie's perspective here. She's stepping out of her car, literally her home at this point, and into this luxurious mansion like it's her second chance at life. It's almost too good to be true, and spoiler alert, it totally is.
That's right. The house becomes a character in its own right, almost overshadowing the Winchesters themselves at the beginning. The pristine white exterior, the manicured lawns, all of it screams perfection. And yet, perfection can be its own kind of terrifying, can't it?
Terrifying for sure. Millie even notices these odd, uneasy details right away. Like her attic room with the tiny stuck window and a door that only locks from the outside. What kind of setup is that?
Indeed. It's as though the house is designed to control her, trapping her physically, while also becoming a constant reminder of how out of place she is in this perfect world. It's subtle, but those early descriptions of the house lay the groundwork for the psychological tension that follows.
Totally. And the Winchesters. Can we talk about how Nina immediately pulls this power play by testing Millie with those impossible cleaning tasks? Welcome to the family quickly turns into, let's see how far I can push you.
Precisely. Nina's behaviour is erratic from the start, an unsettling mix of charm and cruelty. It creates this sense of unpredictability, and you can't help but wonder what's motivating her to act this way. Is she protecting something, hiding something, or perhaps...
Or maybe she's just unhinged.
Quite possibly. And then there's Andrew, her husband. Here he is, seemingly the polar opposite of Nina. Quiet, composed, almost too perfect. But of course, perfection can be its own kind of mask.
Yes. And I loved how Freida McFadden just lets the tension snowball here. You're watching Millie try to find her footing while all these red flags keep popping up. It's like watching a horror movie unfold, except it's psychological instead of supernatural.
Exactly. McFadden excels at planting small, seemingly innocuous details that later bloom into pivotal moments. The locked door, the strange glances from Nina, even the enigmatic landscaper Enzo, they all compound into this feeling of creeping unease.
It's such a smart way to build suspense. And by the time Millie finally starts to piece things together, it's almost too late. But hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. What stood out most to you about Millie as she's navigating this new chapter in her life, Elliot?
What struck me was her resilience. Despite everything, her past, her living situation, the clear power imbalance, she's resourceful. She's cautious but not entirely timid. It's fascinating to see how her instincts evolve as the story progresses.
Okay, Elliot. Speaking of resilience, this chapter really starts to test Millie's psychological limits, doesn't it? The mind games are subtle at first, but they quickly escalate into something much darker.
Oh, unquestionably. It's that point in the narrative where you feel like the psychological screws are tightening. And more than just a game, it feels like a deliberate chess match with no clear victor.
Exactly. It's like everyone's hiding something, but you're not entirely sure who's playing who. Nina, for example. Can we talk about how her unpredictability ramps up?
Yes, her behaviour does become increasingly erratic. It's not simply about her toying with Millie anymore. It's as though she's testing her boundaries, probing to see how far she can exert control. But what's fascinating is how Millie begins to push back, albeit subtly.
Oh, definitely. Like that moment when Millie starts noticing the cracks in the armor, right? And it's not just Nina. It's Andrew, too. His perfect husband act. I'm not buying it for a second anymore.
Indeed. The facade of Andrew's calm, composed demeanour begins to distort here. The clues are subtle, almost imperceptible. A glance that lingers, a comment delivered too cautiously. It adds to this gnawing sense that there's far more to the Winchesters than meets the eye.
Totally. And let's not forget the house itself. It's like this looming character that feeds into the paranoia. Those locked doors, the oppressive decor. It's like the house is designed to keep everyone on edge.
Absolutely. It mirrors the psychological tension brewing among the characters. And I couldn't help but notice how Freida McFadden uses the setting to reinforce this sense of isolation. It's as if the house becomes complicit in the deception unfolding within its walls.
Yes! And speaking of deception, there's this brilliant scene with Millie. She's starting to feel like a pawn, but you also see the beginnings of her digging for control. Could this be the start of her turning the tables?
Precisely. It's almost as if survival instincts begin to override her compliance. And that's what makes Millie such a compelling protagonist. Despite the power dynamics at play, she's observant, calculating. It's clear she's not content to stay a victim in this twisted power struggle.
Right! And I love how McFadden keeps us guessing here. Like, how much does Millie really understand? Is she playing dumb? Or are we just as in the dark as she is?
It's a brilliant use of perspective to maintain tension. Millie's insights never feel omnipotent. They're fragmented, incomplete. And that ambiguity feeds directly into the growing unease.
Which honestly just makes each development hit harder. Like when Millie overhears that one cryptic conversation between Nina and Andrew, the tension practically leaps off the page.
Precisely. And that's McFadden's strength here. Building suspense by revealing just enough to keep us engaged, while holding back enough to keep us speculating. Every detail feels purposeful, meticulously laid out to deepen the intrigue.
It's so good, Elliot. And by the end of this chapter, you're left questioning everything. Who's manipulating who? What's the end game here? I have so many questions, and honestly, it's infuriating in the best way.
Well, Clara, that's precisely the mark of a masterful psychological thriller. The housemaid thrives on keeping us unbalanced, constantly rethinking our assumptions. And it's only going to get more intense from here.
You're so right, Elliot. Things do get more intense, but wow, this chapter left me reeling. The revelations here, shocking doesn't even begin to cover it.
I quite agree, Clara. It's as if the narrative rug has been yanked from beneath us, leaving us scrambling to make sense of it all. Freida McFadden does an exceptional job of escalating the tension here.
Totally. Like that moment where Millie overhears the argument between Nina and Andrew. Suddenly, all those subtle clues we've been picking up on click into place, but at the same time, it opens up even more questions. It's maddening.
Precisely. What makes this revelation so effective is its duality. On one hand, it casts a shadow over everything we thought we knew about the Winchesters, and on the other, it recontextualizes Millie's position within this dangerously toxic environment.
Right. It's like you think you've got a handle on Nina, just this over-the-top, chaotic boss from hell, but now? Oh no, there's way more to her than we realized. The way she manipulates Andrew, it's chilling. I'm not sure if I should feel sorry for him or be terrified of her.
It's an unsettling dichotomy, isn't it? Nina's dominance over Andrew is not merely manipulative, it borders on psychological warfare. Yet Andrew's own role in this twisted relationship is far from innocent. You begin to wonder whether he's truly a victim or merely playing his own game.
Exactly. And what about Millie? Can we talk about how this poor woman keeps stumbling into landmines? Like when she discovers that little clue in Nina's room. I mean, I literally gasped out loud.
Ah, you must be referring to the discovery of... Well, let's avoid spoilers for now, Clara. But yes, that moment is so meticulously set up, and it flips the entire dynamic between Millie and Nina. What's intriguing is how it subtly empowers Millie while simultaneously putting her in even greater danger.
Completely. She's suddenly armed with knowledge that could totally change the game, or completely backfire. And yet she keeps her cool, which honestly, I don't think I could in that situation. Like, I'd be sprinting for the front door screaming the entire way.
Indeed, her restraint in the face of such peril is a testament to her grit. It's becoming increasingly clear that Millie's survival hinges on her remaining one step ahead of the Winchesters. But can she manage that when every revelation seems to tighten the noose?
Ooh, the tension, Elliot. It's killing me. And speaking of nooses tightening, what about Andrew's little admission? I didn't see that coming at all. It's like, who is this guy really? And why is he so complicit in whatever Nina's cooking up?
Exactly. Andrew's veneer of charm and composure begins to crack here, doesn't it? His admission complicates his character significantly. He's not just a passive participant. There's an agency to him that makes his motives all the more ambiguous.
And then you've got Millie, who's just putting the pieces together in real time. It's like you can sense her weighing her options. Fight, flee, or maybe something else entirely. I can't tell where she's going, but I'm all in for the ride.
As am I. McFadden masterfully constructs a situation where each character feels both vulnerable and dangerous. It's a delicate balance, and it leaves us as readers second-guessing every action and motive. Simply riveting storytelling.
Couldn't agree more. At this point, I'm biting my nails, waiting to see who's going to make the next move. And with that jaw-dropping final page, I'm desperate to turn the page. Speaking of jaw-dropping, Elliot, I can't stop thinking about how Freida McFadden absolutely masters the art of manipulation in The Housemaid. It's not just the characters, it's us too, as the readers. She plays with our perspective so expertly, don't you think?
Completely. The way she weaves manipulation throughout the story is rather masterful, isn't it? Not just in how the characters treat one another, but in how the narrative itself deceives the reader. It's like she's playing a chess game with us.
Oh, 100%. Take Nina, for example. She practically thrives on mind games, testing, pushing, and pulling at Millie until she's left questioning her own sanity. It's like gaslighting on steroids.
Yes, and it showcases how abusers wield psychological tools to assert control. Nina's manipulation of both Andrew and Millie goes beyond mere games. It's deliberate, calculated. What struck me most was how convincingly McFadden portrayed that distortion of reality. There's almost a cruelty to its precision.
Oh, absolutely. Like the way Nina lies about her own daughter. It's twisted. And you're sitting there thinking, is it all part of some grand scheme, or is she really just that messed up?
Exactly. And isn't it interesting how McFadden juxtaposes this with Millie's journey? Despite being subjected to such manipulation, Millie begins to emerge as a powerful force of resilience. Her strength becomes the narrative counterweight, doesn't it?
Yes. It's like she's clawing her way up from rock bottom, refusing to give up, even when everything's stacked against her. That moment when she realizes she's not as helpless as Nina thinks? Chef's kiss. But what did you make of Andrew's role in all this? Manipulated, manipulator, or both?
A bit of both, I'd say. Andrew embodies the duality that McFadden explores. Victim turned enabler. His complicity adds layers to the theme of psychological abuse, blurring the lines between perpetrator and prey. It's such a vital reminder of how murky these dynamics can be.
Totally. And the house. I mean, it basically becomes a symbol of control. The locked doors, the creepy vibe. It's like the house is its own character. Oppressive. Suffocating.
Indeed. The house mirrors the psychological prison Millie finds herself in. It's almost gothic in its design, both literal and figurative. A labyrinth of barriers, both physical and emotional. That interplay enriches the reader's experience tremendously.
Wait, can we talk about the white dress scene for a second?
Ah, yes, a pivotal moment. In many ways, it encapsulates Millie's internal battle. Her yearning to belong juxtaposed against her growing awareness of the danger she's in. Far from mere curiosity, it's a moment loaded with psychological weight.
Yes. And it's that kind of duality that makes McFadden's work so compelling. You're rooting for Millie, but at the same time, you're terrified for her. It's such a whirlwind of emotions and survival. Gosh, Elliot, Millie is just, Elliot, after unpacking all of that, I'm left thinking about how The Housemaid doesn't just tell a story, it really challenges us to explore the layers of manipulation and resilience. What a journey this has been.
Absolutely, Clara. From the meticulously planted twist to the outright jaw-dropping finale, Freida McFadden has given us a masterclass in psychological manipulation. I'm still processing it all, honestly.
Same here. It's rare to find a book that not only keeps you on the edge of your seat, but also makes you question every character to the very last page. And Millie, I just can't get over her arc. She's like the phoenix rising from the ashes, but with way more baggage.
Quite true. And isn't that what makes her such a captivating protagonist? You root for her, you question her, and yet you can't take your eyes off her journey. I think it's safe to say, The Housemaid is a story that will stick with readers long after they've turned the final page.
Totally. And to everyone listening, if you haven't read it yet, why are you still waiting? Grab your copy through our affiliate link below and prepare for some serious thrills. And don't forget, there's a sequel. We might just need another episode to unpack that one, huh, Elliot?
Oh, I wouldn't be opposed. But until then, let's shift the focus back to our audience. We'd love to hear from you. What did you think of The Housemaid? Did McFadden catch you off guard, or were you clever enough to predict the twists?
And hey, if there's a book you're dying for us to review, drop it in the comments or send us a message. We love getting recommendations. It's what keeps this book club rolling.
Precisely. Consider this your open invitation to join the conversation. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, like this episode, and share it with your fellow book lovers. We thrive on your engagement.
Yes, we do. All right. Book clubbers, that's it from us today. Thank you for tuning in to the Book Club Lounge. Keep reading, keep questioning, and we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.
Take care, everyone, and happy reading.